What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another watch list video. Happy Wednesday. You're getting a really nice pull here in the Kospi in the after hours. I'm going to go over the futures market, but real quick, I want to talk about what I did today. I picked up some ANET this morning. If I can show the intraday chart, I took it over the prior day's high. So in that first 5 minutes of the day is where I was getting long. You know, you're pushing above VWAP and you're pushing above the prior day's high. So I did take this one, and I also took a little stab at Dell this morning above the prior day high. That one did pull back and stop me out, which was fine. I took a small loss on this one, you know, and I didn't want to revisit, unfortunately, but I still think the chart looks awesome. It's still building sideways nice, and I will talk about this more. I definitely missed NBIS as an undercut and rally. I talked about this yesterday in last night's video, so hopefully maybe some of you were eyeing this name. It's been a big leader. You know, it's pretty rough pullback, right? It's kind of the same thing that we got here, right? Super wide and loose action, just lots of volatility where you get a really massive pullback, you find support, and you get a nice bounce. Well, this one's even bigger than the prior one, so kind of you know, right into a support area. I talked about it last night. Like I said, you get an ugly close and then a super net, perfect, right? And as you can see, you started off the day with an OEL, your open equals low candle, pushing right through the prior day's lows after gapping below it. So that was a perfect setup to me, and I mean, it pushed into the close in such a perfect way. This was a beautiful setup, so I hope some of you were able to get this. I missed this one, unfortunately, but it is what it is. If you were prepared going into today and maybe even yesterday on like one or two things, you know, you could possibly have one or two names that are acting okay for you and pushed away from your average. You just got to be looking at the right stuff. This market's super hard. It's very you know, you have to be an elite stock picker, I guess you could say, but you don't even need to be doing that. You can kind of just sit on your hands and be patient and do absolutely nothing because the market is on super hard mode right now, and it's definitely a hard penny environment. Now, going over the futures here, oops, you got your NQ. You know, you did have a little bit of a push, but we're rejecting the 50-day EWY on the Boats Exchange, which if I can even get that on here, there we go. Absolutely bleeding right now, down 2%, super nasty. You did get a gap up right into the 5-day, and you're just super gross. But another one where it's like we've had such a nasty pull. Yes, we can continue lower, but we are coming into some big areas of support, right? If I throw up the Kospi, which is what I was looking at the beginning, right? You're undercutting support with another, you know, I mean, you did get a nice gap up in the after hours. I mean, not nice, but some sort of a gap up into the 5-day. Same thing as the EWY, of course, and just super nasty flush right now. But you're falling right into a support gap, so I wouldn't be surprised to see these things maybe bounce in the morning or whatever. But it's super nasty action, right? You can look at your Japanese stock, if I can throw this even up here. Your Kioxia held the 50. It did just gap up in the after hours. This is a top holding in the DRAM. I think 4% gap up, maybe more, but it's slightly pushing. It did hold the 50. It's trying to build a higher low off the 50, but I mean, just needs more sideways to really confirm that, I guess. Your SK Hynix is down in the after hours. It's sitting right on the 50-day. Maybe it can bounce here, maybe not. It's not my favorite action, but it is trying to hold the 50. I would say I would not want to see it lose that. I think Samsung is getting hit the most, and that's why your Kospi is getting destroyed, right? Samsung kind of loses support. You're getting two ugly closes below it, and it's pushing below yesterday's low. So definitely not the best action here in the memory right now in the futures market. Pretty ugly. But you did have crude oil today back above the 200-day with nice with some nice volume. So that's interesting to see. And I can go over all these oil refiner names, which have been absolute monsters here, right? PBF's been an absolute beast. PARR, Par Pacific, close to a new 52-week high, but just overall a huge move today, right? DK, new 52-week high. I mean, these charts look insane. Dino, I wouldn't be trading. These ones are super slow, but I mean, you see the rotation, right? Dino, VLO, another new 52-week high. MPC with another new 52-week high, just some monster charts. And then ExxonMobil obviously looks like shit, but it's one of the bigger ones. Did hold the 200-day and is bouncing off that. If you look at your dollar, you had a kind of a stall day today. Still kind of in this flag, still holding the 20-day, maybe like wedging a little bit here in the last few days or the last week. So maybe could see lower in the short term, or it's just going to push out of this flag. It wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, I kind of want to talk about silver here because I am short EXK, but silver looks disgusting, right? You come into the prior support, you know, you find resistance at it pretty much at the 20-day. You lose the 10-day again, and you're just, you know, you're falling back over. EXK, I shorted at the 200-day. I probably said this a few times now in the video, but I'm still sitting in this one. Hoping this thing can break new lows, where I would look to trim or cover some of my short. But yeah, I mean, this thing just does not look very good. Silver looks gross. Gold looks gross. Your Bitcoin just trash action. It's just doing what it does best, and it's just breaking down. And it's just building another lower high. So maybe it needs lower. Maybe it needs lower. Just definitely not the best look. WGMI, I'm going to go over, I just went over the futures. I'm going to go over like the markets now. You got WGMI with an absolute dead cat bounce, right? I talked about NBIS, which I think was one of my favorites for sure. And it's still on the list because it had a super big undercut and rally today. Maybe a few days sideways, and you could look to get into this one if you're not already in it. Maybe that's what I'll be looking for. Right? The weekly chart doesn't look too bad. I think this undercut and rally is pretty big. So maybe we could have a double bottom base if we can get a nice bounce and an actual setup and some tightness. But definitely was a good spot today out of all the WGMI names. HUT is coming right into the 50. Is this going to be a short spot, or can we maybe build sideways for a few days and really push, or just push right above the 50? We need to see ourselves get back above the 50 for this to really be like a higher low I want to pay attention to. But we'll see for now. I think out of all of them, it would just be HUT. But this group sucks. This is like one of the worst groups. And then Wolf, obviously you come down, you get an undercut, and then you rallied back today. So not bad, but below the 50. These names suck. There's no setups. They're not on my list, but just want to slowly keep an eye on the rest of the stocks in this group are absolute turds, and they do not look good. DRAM, I talked about Kioxia. DRAM held the 50 yesterday and had a nice OEL today, which is super nice. I still own SanDisk with the full size position that I've been holding on to. I'm not letting this one go just yet. You are seeing some bleeding in the EWI and the Kospi in the after hours. You're coming into a resistance gap. Probably find some short-term resistance there. We'll see. I think I can sit with it for now when my stop's pretty far down, or practically at break even now. But yeah, you got an OEL candle today. You pushed through the prior day high. You undercut the 50 yesterday, and you rallied back through it today. Pretty good action to me. So a pullback wouldn't be too bad. I mean, this thing's up, you know, for off the lows up like 13, over 10%, right? So maybe I guess that's a full HR. Who knows? But DRAM, not a bad day today off the 50. And then you can look at WDC getting back above the 50 in a very small way. STX, same thing, just barely above the 50, gapping down the after hours probably, so it's back below the 50. But MU still kind of in no man's land. It's trying to maybe build a higher low here, but I don't know. There's just overhead resistance now with all these gap downs we have, and you got declining moving averages. So that's the spot I'm going to be looking to trim, right? Especially for a SanDisk, as a pop into those moving averages, into the overhead resistance, maybe take some off. You know, because that's where, you know, I think, you know, shorts are covering into these areas down here, and then maybe an area to look to re-short or add to the short would be back into those areas, right? So that you got your DRAM, your SMH had a nice rally today back above the 50. We'll see if it will open up there tomorrow. Peng was an absolute beast today. Penguin Solutions. Nvidia, I talked about this one yesterday. Super nice move, built a higher low off the 200. Absolute monster move today. You know, it was up, I mean, not monster, just barely over a full ATR move, but, you know, just a nice move today off the 200 day. It's nice to see it hold it, right? The group maybe slowly starting to come back. AVGO finally bouncing today. It's still absolutely nothing on AVGO. I'd rather go for NVIDIA, but AMD, I don't know how to feel about this action. I did throw it on my list because I think like a gap down tomorrow and an undercut of the support gap or the 50 day would be a huge spot. You know, because I don't mind this weekly chart too much. It's not my favorite, but I just, you know, this name to just continue building out, be awesome, and a shakeout down here would be super nice. So that's definitely what I would watch. AMD is kind of like a name I'm watching. If we can get a washout tomorrow, if we gap down, if some stuff's maybe a little bit heavy, I don't know though. We'll have to see, but definitely something I want to keep an eye on. But you know, it was up a little bit today, not barely anything. The action sucks on this name. It's hard to read even. It's so choppy and so volatile. Not even worth to trade it, but definitely going to keep an eye on it. MU, obviously, in your semiconductors, had somewhat of an update. INTC, this is maybe another one that could have been viable. I did not take this one. It's below the 50. It had a super ugly day yesterday, but you came right into the support gap. You found support, and you rallied and pretty much closed at the high. So that was super nice. Maybe a nice spot. I did not take this, but you're still building a huge base. This name can look awesome if you know the market environment can get better and it can get back above the 50 and build sideways for a few days, right? But it's just been straight down. So just continue to keep an eye on this one for sure inside this big base. Marvell also on the list. You pull into the 50, your first pull back to the 50 since we got back above the 200 day and back above the 50 day. And you get an OEL this morning. Obviously, you saw a lot of open equals lows, but an inside day, push above today's highs, and I will be looking to buy this name as a higher low setup off the 50. Think it looks pretty good. It, you know, it has got pretty hammered with the whole rest of the market and semis in general. But if these things are really going to try to bounce tomorrow, or into the end of the week or into next week, Marvell is probably one I want to look at right off the 50-day here. I don't think it looks too bad. KLAC kind of similar, where you pull into the 50 inside day. Could be looking at this one too, but who knows? I don't know. This thing got hammered pretty hard in the last 3 days. They're down like 12% 2 days in a row, and then was down 7% yesterday. So who knows? Marvell's kind of same thing though, where it just got hit pretty hard. But I like Marvell better than KLAC. KLAC's a little too gappy for me, but QQQ had a decent bounce today. If you flip to a weekly chart, we had an inside week, and we came down to like the mother bars lows, and we undercut that and rallied this morning, right? So, that was interesting. Or, we had a bounce, a big washout, and we undercut that level and rally back through it and close pretty nice on the day, but still below the 50. Okay, we're still below the 10 and 20, and we're also below the 50. So not the best signs here. We need to get back above those for things to really get better, and maybe for stocks to act just a little bit better, right? That's all I want to see is back above the 50, right? Your SPY, though, you held the 50 SMA to the perfect cent, right? This still looks fine, right? It looks, this looks way better than the Nasdaq. Maybe the Nasdaq's lagging the SPY, but you held the 50. It looks all right. So don't want to get negative about that. XBI, right? This name is, or this group's getting super extended, right? You're over 7 ATRs, but you did have an inside day today. This thing's been super strong. I wouldn't be surprised to see this thing absolutely push right back into new highs. Not surprising that the super strong close. You're still holding the 5-day. You're surfing the 5-day. So another push higher wouldn't surprise me at all, right? And I look at, I'll throw up some healthcare names, not specifically biotech, but LLY, Eli Lilly on the list. You're building sideways. It looks nice. It's trying to build higher lows. Either way, super nice range starting to build. I do own this name from Monday. Think it still looks fine, and it's definitely one of the bigger names in that healthcare space. GH is another name I own, but this kind of explains like your XLV move, LLY. And GH, right? Or you just kind of get a nice few days pullback after getting extended. So it looks fine. But Moderna, moving back to biotech, right? Kind of getting a little bit of a pull today. Twist, kind of getting a little bit of a pull, but you're right at the 20-day, so it doesn't look too bad. PTGX, inside day looks exactly like XBI. Could continue higher. Wouldn't be buying these things. 8 ATRs from their 50-day. VKTX inside day, right under a base, I'm pretty sure, right? Not my favorite weekly base. I won't be trading any of these names realistically, besides Eli Lilly, and I own GH as far as healthcare names, but these names, no thank you. QURE, I talked about this yesterday as a higher low setup. Didn't take it. Obviously, I don't trade this name like I talked about yesterday. I don't want to eat a 40% gap down on some, drug-related news. No thank you. So I just rather avoid and just let watch these. TGTX looks awesome. You come out the flag inside day, it looks fine, right? Beam is another one. You're emerging out of a pretty big base here, and you get an inside day today after the breakout, and looks fine. Not going to be buying these things personally. Would rather just watch them and sit on my hands. But this one looks fine, right? Your Mag 7, I talked about Nvidia. Nvidia was a beast today. Mag 7 still looks fine. You're finally building out sideways back above the 200. Do not lose the 200, and this thing could look pretty nice as long as it continues building out here, right? I think Apple, Nvidia, Apple, pulls into the 5-day, still surfing the 5, came into resistance, but maybe just continue building out here would be nice. You're right under a new all-time high, so one of the strongest names for sure. The weekly chart, looks all right, but the monthly chart looks pretty good, whatever. But the daily, just continue building out here. I think it would be interesting. It's definitely one of the better holding up names holding up the best. Amazon, I did throw this on the list. You're still trying to build that bottoming base. You did get like an outside bar today, held the 10 and 20. I like this as a reversal candle for a possible higher low here. So I'm watching a push above today's highs. If this thing loses the 10 and 20, then I'll just let it go until it maybe falls into the 200-day, which would maybe be an interesting spot. But for now, a push above today's highs would be interesting. Look at the weekly chart. You have an inside week. If it would push above today's highs and maybe close up here, close green for the week, that would be super interesting, and I would really like this chart. But I think the weekly chart looks awesome. Trying to build a bottoming base above today's highs will be super interesting for me. Throw on the bug ETF, right? Been super strong. You don't want to be buying these things extended, right? Because they're starting to finally, rest a little bit. Much needed digestion. I mean, not really digestion just yet, but just 2-day rest. Maybe could continue higher tomorrow, right? CrowdStrike, a name I own, looks awesome, right? It looks fine, right? It's just pulling in after coming into left side peak. Okta, same thing. Looks fine. Not buyable. None of these are buyable, right? They're extended. FTNT, not bad. 2 days inside. Just resting for 2 days. Looks like maybe a 2D LV setup. Who knows? Wouldn't be buying a 2D LV setup more than 5 ATRs from the 50. The setup to buy this was as a higher low inside of the high tight flag or as a breakout of the high tight flag. But you know, either way, the group's been strong. RBRK, same thing, right? 2-day pull, but things still look awesome. I did throw DDOG on the list, and this isn't just a strictly cybersecurity name, but you made a big move up, showed nice relative strength. You're starting to finally build sideways. You have a chance to build a higher low off the 10-day today with an inside day tomorrow. Will be super interesting. So I'll watch the prior day's high, you know, today's highs tomorrow. Super interesting spot. The weekly chart looks awesome. This name still continues to look really good and gonna always be on my list here when it's showing this nice relative strength. XLF, I just thought I randomly mentioned this. This DTSS was pretty crazy. It was pretty perfect here. So if any of you were able to get that, super impressive. But this one, you know, closing at the lows after rejecting that prior high, super ugly. But I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's still above its 10-day, but you know, not the best rejection. If you were able to get short, that's interesting. I went over AMD, went over Amazon, ARM. You're at support. Same thing as far as like your names that have kind of gotten beaten up pretty hard, have been prior leaders. Are these things just going to continue to go straight down, or are they going to get some relief and actually bounce off these levels of support, right? So I will watch this name for like a gap down tomorrow if that's what we get. And then a push through the pivot or the 50-day, right? You undercut it yesterday, you held below it today. Can we push above like today's highs slash we'll see the action tomorrow, but I would like to see a nice push on this arm through this prior low. BB, I debated putting this one on the list. Not the greatest setup, but you made a big move on earnings. You're finally pulling. I talked about these yesterday. You could have taken it today, right? And if I go to my thing here, right, you could have taken it today. Super shitty action, so maybe not. But you know, you get an inside day today. This name moves 8% per day, and it was pretty much flat on the day from yesterday's close. But you know, not a bad inside day today. We'll watch this over the prior day high. You know, it's just like breakout retest setup with an inside day today. So not a bad look, right? I don't think it looks too bad, but maybe just, you know, I like more tightness, but it's been holding up nice. CRDO, another one I debated putting on the list. You know, you've shown decent relative strength. It hasn't quite broken down yet. Could possibly be debating this thing for like a bear flag here. Who knows? But either way, you're kind of under a left side peak. You're back above the 10 and 20. I would say just like a push above this and then a few more days of tightness, I don't know, would maybe be nicer. It's trying to build higher lows here, and I just don't know how to feel about this one, but it doesn't look bad. It's not super late in its base, right? It got back above the 200 in April, you know, went sideways, made a nice move, kind of been slowly grinding up, so looks good still. It doesn't look terrible. A-Lab, I think, is another one where it's like, not my favorite. You lost a 10 and 20 inside day to day, kind of rejecting that. I'll watch the prior day high. It's not on my list because it's acting a little bit more poor compared to CRDO, but CRDO still doesn't look terrible to me. It's not the absolute worst looking name, but this action kind of sucks in here. So just continue building out the right side, continue to watch it. DDOG, same thing. Continue building out the right side here. It looks pretty good. And it's software, so it's been acting awesome. And that group is really good. It's got the group behind it, which is super important, right? Dell, right? Shakeout today. At the lows if you were buying this thing right at the open, but you know, it offered another setup a little bit later in the day, and it still looks awesome, right? It's been having super nice relative strength. Had an inside day yesterday. If you bought it yesterday, good job. I think that was a great spot as a higher low, and I still think it looks fine. You come and reject a pivot, you're still under a left side peak. Could be like a mid cheat, low cheat setup, I guess you could say, but just continue building out the right side. Inside day tomorrow, I'll be watching for maybe a washout. Would be super interesting. The weekly chart still looks fine, and it's building a nice, it's just slowly building a nice consolidation, a really nice base here. So just continue to keep it on. The hood, not really a setup for me. You could have bought this one, like towards the gap. Didn't quite get there, almost got there, but super interesting name. It's shown lots of relative strength, and it kind of reminds me of just throwing up Reddit, right? Like hood looks great, but there's just not enough consolidation for me to really be buying these. I'm just going to continue watching them because they've been showing relative strength, but like a 3-4 day consolidation after an already big move up, not my favorite. It does look like a flag, looks cool. If you're like a super short-term trader and you want to take advantage of this with like a leverage ETF or something from a short day push and you own this name, then great. But for me, like it's just how much more do you want it to go without real consolidation? So I'll just continue to keep an eye on this. Same thing with Reddit. Like it reminds me of ARM, where you get back above the 200-day when the market's kind of not in the best period, and you just actually build out and you build a nice base. Marvell did the same thing. Coin last year did the same thing, or maybe that was 2024. But either way, right? The move above the 200 on big volume is super nice to see, and it immediately puts the name on my list. But now I need a real setup. I need real tightness. I need a base. And I need that actual setup to form. Intel I talked about already. Eli Lilly, Intel, I'm just going to be watching the prior day high. I definitely think this one was buyable today. Possibly. It did have a super nice or super gross washout this morning. I mean, this is pretty disgusting, but you had an awesome 620 setup, and then you got back above that support gap. So that was super cool. If you were stocking this name and really wanted to own it, knowing that it's in a huge base, let me go back to that actually. Knowing that this name's in a huge base and knowing that it's coming towards the bottom part of the range into a support gap, like great work if you got this, right? Super nice 627, gave pretty tight risk here. 1.5% risk on a name that moves, almost 10% per day or 9.5. I think it looks fine. I will watch the prior day high. It's at the bottom of the range, trying to build a higher low inside the space. I think it looks awesome. LOY, Eli Lilly, just continue building out. Marvell, I talked about off the 50. NBIS going to continue to watch his NTAP. Super nice relative strength in this name. I think this is in the same computer peripherals kind of group as ANET, which made an awesome move today, broke out of its base. A new 52-week high. I think it was the most liquid name on the 52-week high list, but NTAP maybe kind of doing the same thing. It's trying to flag out here for the last 2 days. So super interesting. Continue to keep an eye on this one. Maybe a little bit washout on the 20-day. I don't know. I'll just continue to watch it for a little bit more tightness, right? It did start to get tight over here. Had a nice up move from the inside day as a higher low, but continue to watch it. Pang, like I said, made a huge move today. So I'm going to continue to watch this name. You could watch it as a pullback to the top of the base, a pullback into the earnings gap. Who knows? Will be something I continue to watch. SpaceX, absolutely nasty flush today, but who knows? I have it marked. Maybe it can rally back through this low, which if I mark the exact low, there you go. If it can rally back through this low, I will watch that, because a lot of people may be seeing this thinking that it's a short, and it has looked like a short for a while. Ever since you got the bearish engulfing and then the nasty gap down, 2 days off highs, right? That was super disgusting. And then you had another bearish engulfing. You built a lower high yesterday, super nasty move. And then market's bouncing today, and this thing's losing the IPO lows. But I will watch for a rally back through. Who knows? It's not on the list because it's not my favorite idea, but I have it marked and I'll be watching it. Google, another one where it's you rejected the 50. It's not my favorite. I didn't really want to talk about this one, but you're trying to build something out here, like a nice little cup here. Just continue building out the right side. I will watch this. The group's been okay, right? It's definitely been showing relative strength to the rest of the market, like in the last week or two, not in the last month, but continue building out here. Maybe Google can continue building out as well. I think Amazon is one of the better looking ones. Nvidia obviously looks awesome. If you got that today, impressive work. Reddit I talked about. FFIV, I can't remember if this is just your software related names, right? So the group's super strong. You're building a flag still, double inside day. It looks okay, or it looks pretty good. For this name, right? Snow looks okay, right? It's had super nice RS, but I just don't see a tight enough setup, right? You're just not tight enough, but it's in the right group. And it's something I'm going to continue to keep an eye on for sure. And it's probably going to go without me, but I will continue to watch his name for continued tightness. And I think it looks pretty good, right? Slowly gaining traction personally in small steps, right? With SanDisk the other day, and ANET today was pretty nice. Dell could have been, Intel could have been, NBIS could have been. You buy one name and it starts to work, and then you maybe look to go buy another name, and then after that, same thing. You just repeat that process as names just continue setting up if you're seeing setups, right? I'm seeing iffy, right? I didn't really talk about breadth, which I usually do, and I don't want to keep this video super long, but breadth got hit again today, not in the worst way like yesterday, right? Obviously yesterday was almost 500, today was 300, but it still got hit today, and it's still a hard penny environment. So just being extra patient, I think, is the most important thing. You start to see more setups and things working, then you can maybe press your foot on the gas just a little bit more as far as trying one more name, and then maybe trying another name, things like that. Like tomorrow, I'll look to try maybe 1 or 2 more names, if that. Maybe nothing. Maybe I'm just going to sit on my hands and be patient. We'll see what the morning brings, as well as the rest of the week, right? Tomorrow's Thursday, then you got Friday, and then the week's over. And the weekend will be pretty important, right? So stay ready with your organized watch lists every single night. Show up every single day, because you'll eventually show up on the right day when the market is going to turn, and you'll be there and you'll make money from that. So patience is a top priority for me. And yeah, if the hard penny environment continues, then we'll continue to stay patient, and I will continue to adapt to whatever the market does. But I appreciate all of you guys for watching. I kept this video way too long. This is my longest video. Peace.